3 years ago, I've read this little book, and the lessons installed in it began to change my mind significantly. So today, I want to talk to you about the 5 main principles I learned from this book. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So my name is Yarek, and today we're going to be talking about this bad boy, Rich Dad Poor Dad. This is actually the first kind of finance self-helpy book I've read in my life. This is around 3 years ago. It was my second year of university. I was around 20 years old. After reading the book, I remember feeling very overwhelmed. The fact that I've never been taught any of these things in school. I felt like the school system kind of like failed me or something along those lines. Yeah, it's like feeling that I was kind of behind in life because for 20 years of my life, I've never even kind of remotely heard this. Or the other way of thinking is, I probably heard these things, but just my mind was not open to kind of receiving them, whatever way you want to think about it. Recently I've read the book, and because it's so dear to my heart, I wanted to talk to you about it. So here are the 5 big ideas, the 5 main things I took away from the book. So firstly, assets and liabilities. So let's keep it as simple as possible, because I think Einstein said it, if you can't explain something as you would to a 5-year-old, you don't really know it. Something along those lines really. So the basics of it: an asset is something that puts money into your pocket, and liability is something which takes money out of your pocket. So by this definition, a house which you own, or for example which you rent, is something which takes money out of your pocket, and therefore it's a liability. Yeah, Robert was super controversial for actually saying that at that time. So the way it goes, the rich acquire assets, but the poor and the middle class acquire liabilities which they think are assets. Things like expensive cars, expensive watches. Okay, cool, they're nice, like doodads liabilities, but in reality, it's not getting you closer to getting out of the rat race. And this is the whole notion of why cash flow is king. The poor and the middle class work for money. However, the rich have money work for them. Or the middle class work hard, then they get better job opportunities, so you get paid more. But this means they pay more in taxes. Then as the salary increases, they feel like they should having better cars, better houses to live in. Now, you know what? Let's throw in some holidays in there too. So this you can compare like living in a rat race, like a little rat, which running this little wheel. You're kind of going from paycheck to paycheck, yes, to survive, to running towards this hope of security, of financial freedom, etc. But in reality, what happens is you're going to die with very, very little. Meanwhile, the rich invest money into assets. These assets then make them even more money. With that money, they buy even more assets. And so they create these systems which work more or less on autopilot. Yeah, this whole game is completely different. This is why the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Ultimately, the name of the game is not how much money you make, but it's how much money you keep and how hard you get that money to work for you. Okay, going by these rules, somebody who earns less but keeps a lot of that and then makes it work for them is actually a lot more wealthy than somebody who earns a lot more and just spends it as soon as they get it. Okay, to get out of the rat race, you need to become financially literate. So you need to mind your own business. Your business evolves around your asset column instead of your income statement. So your income statement is like your paycheck, but an asset column is something which directly generates cash flow. Okay, here's a quote from the book. So financial struggle is often a direct result of people working all their lives for someone else. First, work for the owner of the company, then for the government via taxes, and finally for the bank that owns their mortgages. What I'm saying is you gotta be aware of what's going on and always pay yourself first, like another book, Richest Man in Babylon, talks about. So let's say, after you get a paycheck, let's say you pay yourself like 10%, maybe 20%, depending on your situation, how much you can actually afford. And then you kind of put it away into investments or like real estate, whatever you want really. Crypto maybe? So here's another quote. The easy road often becomes hard, but the hard road often becomes easy. Okay, what I'm trying to say is doing the hard things now, like learning to invest, learning about all these different things, basically going outside your comfort zone. This path is quite challenging right at the very start, but it's the same with any skills you're trying to learn. The more you do it, the easier it'll become, and the more the results will compound. Okay, the next thing, this whole thing of playing to win versus playing not to lose. As a child, as you're growing up, failure is presented as a bad thing. So the tests you do, you want to get the best mark, you want to get 100 out of 100. Failure and making mistakes is not rewarded. And you can't really ask for other people when you're taking a test for help, because that counts as cheating. The school system subconsciously beds in you that there's only one right answer, but in reality there's just so many. So when you come out of school, you're literally scared to make of any mistakes, of going wrong basically, and this will kind of define a lot of people. And personally for me, I actually really hated English growing up, firstly because it was foreign and didn't really understand, and secondly because there was never really a definitive right answer. But in reality, the people who do make the most mistakes and then learn from them are the ones who gotta get ahead. The most successful people have probably failed a lot more than you even tried. And in this kind of world, collaboration and teamwork is essential for success. And here's another quote. So, failure inspires winners, failure defeats losers. It's the biggest secret to winners. Thus, winners are not afraid to lose. So the school system kind of encourages you subconsciously to play safe, and yes, have the whole mindset of playing not to lose. To kind of like have your safe, stable job and then retire at 60 and have the government and the job kind of help you with your pension. But in reality, you can't really give away your power to everyone else but yourself. You can't really expect everyone else to provide you security. You can't really expect the government to have the best interests for you. You can't really expect. And in terms of jobs, they're there to keep the job going, to keep the business alive. And if you're getting away with it, yeah, it's just the way it is. And I think you as an individual in a business is very replaceable. There's loads of different SOPs, standard operating procedures in place, which will get someone else to take over your job in literally 2 seconds. You are very indispensable. Instead of playing to win, in this reality, you're playing not to lose. This is something you can apply for anything in life, not just finances. For me, in the context of making this YouTube channel, I was playing not to lose. I was incredibly afraid to start this YouTube channel for I think 6+ years. I was afraid of other people's opinions. I was afraid that my setup wasn't really good. I felt that I needed to know everything before I started, how to speak to a camera, how to edit, how to do all the lighting, how to do all the camera setup. But in reality, this is such a backwards kind of mindset, because the most successful people, again, they started, they made a fuck ton of mistakes, they learned the process, and they got really good. As you make mistakes, you learn from them and you improve. This is the kind of the game of playing to win instead of playing not to losers. Okay, and the final and probably the most important point here is law of association and community. The people you surround yourself by is who you will ultimately become. So if you surround yourself with people who constantly want to improve, who constantly want to learn about personal finance, fitness, etc., you got to start becoming more or less, because this is the norm in the group. There's a whole sense of you want to reinforce a habit, you want to find yourself a like-minded group of individuals, because at the end of the day, humans are very tribal creatures. So this kind of tribal instinct. So if you've got a group of friends who play video games, watch porn all day, are incredibly unhealthy, and don't want to go to the gym, so the chances are if you kind of suggest okay guys, come on, let's go and do this thing, let's go to the gym, or let's eat more healthy, they're going to be like, Yarrick mate, what are you doing? So what they try and do, they try and drag you down to the base average of the group. In this environment, it is very difficult to reinforce any positive habits. But on the other hand, if you surround yourself with people who find working out, going for runs, learning just the norm, it's a lot easier for you to kind of reinforce that habit. So coming back to the community aspect of finance, so as a result of that, after reading Rich Dad Poor Dad and then the 4 quadrants, I think, or cash flow quadrant, one of my mentors, I guess, Jessel, he spoke to me about this community called Cash Flow 101, I think, Cash Flow Club even. Basically, it's a community of like-minded individuals who've read the book and who want to get out of the rat race. And there's a bunch of these communities dotted around the UK to around the world, really. I figured out that there's one in Birmingham, which is literally half an hour from where I live. I was you know what? Yeah, I have to do it. It's quite cool because everybody in that group kind of comes from also different backgrounds. Some people come from real estate, some people come from stocks, crypto, some of them is law, and then everybody's on their own different journeys. Some people are out of the rat race, some people are kind of at the start of the whole process. The whole space is very kind of collaborative. Everybody just wants everyone else in the group to win. I'd go to a group and then first you play the board game, Cash Flow 101 or Cash Flow 202. And then afterwards you have the social, and this is where everybody kind of talks about the mistakes they made, what they learned that month. And for me, it was a lot easier to think about finance, to think about all these sorts of areas of my life, and how the community was more or less pushing me as well. This is what happened when I joined the part-time YouTuber account with Ali Abdul, which I'm going to do a video about it later. It was a lot easier for me to kind of be creative and make YouTube videos because I was surrounding myself by people who are like-minded. This is probably the biggest self-help, self-development hack. It's finding yourself the right community who reinforce the habits you want to build. And you just meeting people in the real world is a bit more hard, but there's already communities like that. You just need to go seek for them. Obviously there's cash flow clubs all around the world. All of them are on Zoom, so it's quite easy for you to kind of tune in. If you want to improve public speaking or speaking in general, there's Toastmasters, maybe cold exposure. So you go to the Wim Hof Facebook page, or maybe if you want to try and improve something else, you just find some sort of group where you can reinforce those positive habits. And the next thing is action always beats inaction. Start and then learn instead of learning and then starting, because if you're not applying what you're learning, is literally just like watching TV, just mental masturbation basically. So start small. Literally the smallest kind of step you can take it, and then take it every day, and then over time that will compound, and then that compounding will happen a lot quicker when you think. Just gotta do it for long enough, consistently. Thanks so much for watching the video, and if you want to know a bit more about the cashflow community or the part-time YouTube Academy community, I actually made a video where I talk about it in my week in life video, so I'll leave it somewhere down here. Okay guys, see you next week, bye.